Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, with gameplay, ladies and gentlemen. It seems to be working. Fingers crossed, arms crossed, toes crossed, across to the gaming gods. Let's hopefully that it worked. It worked all day yesterday. And well, here we are. Folks, this is going to be a great 90 plus minutes. We have three incredible topics. Infinite Umbra should be here momentarily. The elusive gamer known as Mr. Mass Effect himself is here, as he always is. And of course, we have a guest making their debut. He's worked in the gaming industry for many, many years. He is now in the process of starting his own YouTube channel, which we'll get the name of it on the back end, of course. But, you know, we want to introduce new voices to this community. And obviously, we have one of the best communities in gaming, especially in the chat. Everyone is up and up, and you know what? Very welcoming. And again, this is a show that's open to PlayStation gamers, Nintendo gamers, and of course, PC gamers. But this is an Xbox show, and we're going to get into three pretty big topics, one of which is going to be our impressions into the new Starfield DLC known as Shattered Space. I want to say I'm about maybe 6-ish hours. Now I'm starting to go around the planet and meet the families. I've already done the trials of that you have to do. It's one of the opening missions. I will say, though, the actual opening mission on the space station where you warp for the first time, and it's this big, massive station in front of you, is probably one of the best I've ever did. It gave me Dead Space kind of a feel because, well, everyone on the ship is dead, and you find there's no gravity. It was very well done. Great opening segment. And like I said, if you're not playing, I don't know what to tell you, but you should be playing because it is absolutely phenomenal. We're also going to get into the lineup for Xbox. You saw by the thumbnail, there is a lot dropping into there. Mind you, there's still, I could have added pictures. We didn't talk about Stalker 2. That's an exclusive. That's coming on the 20th of November. We also have Flight Sim. There are a few others in there. Aura History Untold just released. It has been a banner year for Xbox Game Pass. Well, it's been a banner year for Xbox Game Pass, but it has been a really amazing year for Xbox Game Studios. And man, next year is going to be even better. And of course, Phil Spencer took the time while he was in Japan to visit Koei Tecmo. And I think that is a really big deal. I think there was some fences being mended the same way that he did with Square. Obviously, their last game was a PlayStation 5 exclusive. That was the last Last of the Ronin, I believe it was. That didn't sell as well as it should have. Maybe it would have sold better if it was on Xbox. We will see. Maybe it will eventually. Rise of the Ronin, that's what it was. And maybe eventually will make its way to Xbox. We will see, but we're going to get into that as well. But let's get into introductions as we await Infinite Umbra. Hopefully, he did not stay sleeping. Hey, Jamie, you did an amazing video, the top 20 games coming to Xbox in October. That was some list, and I know that you took a long time to do that video. Very well done. How you feeling?
Thanks, man. Always happy to be here. Yeah, that video was a pain to make, but I enjoy making them, and highly recommend people check them out because I put a lot of effort into them. But
You do.
I'm in a good mood because since the last show we had Tokyo Game Show, and
Indeed.
It's been a lot of good gaming news when it comes to Xbox. Like a bunch of JRPGs coming to Xbox, big deal. Pixel remasters, Trials of Mana, Legend of Mana. Good times. All in all, I think it's a good time to be a gamer.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, yes, ultimately, it's a great time to be a gamer because no matter where you play, there is something for everybody. Like I said, even if you're on PlayStation and you're not exclusive-minded, there have been quite a few games that are not available to anyone else. Obviously, Stellar Blade, Rise of the Ronin. Now, they may not have sold well, but those games still are exclusive to the box. Astrobot came out and did, get really good reviews. I very much enjoyed it. And like, even if you are a PlayStation gamer, you still have a lot of games you're playing because it's a third party machine as well. Again, gaming should be fun. It should not be moved by with hate rhetoric, which seems to be the kind of the thing that people are rolling with these days. And well, you're right, there is a lot to get excited about. But if you are an Xbox gamer, man, you are eating good, and the roadmap is ridiculous. We're going to get into that as well. But making his debut, Coffee, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the program. Great to have you here. Cannot wait to talk about your YouTube channel.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Boom. Yeah, I'm a big fan of your show. Watch it all the time.
Sir, thank you.
And just I wanted to hop in here and give my take and kind of talk about games and what I think about the state of the industry at this moment in time. Kind of quick, just thing to point out. I think everybody right now should go out and get a Series X, a PlayStation, or anything that you can grab right now. Because I don't know if you guys are aware, but the ports are about to go on strike.
They did. They officially went on strike this morning. Yeah.
So whatever you can grab right now, I would grab it, because I think the inventory at this moment in time with everything is going to be real slim picking. So like, if you haven't gone out and bought a Series X yet, or a Series S, or just gaming in general, video games, go do it right now, because if they go off the shelves, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a problem. They did this a couple of years ago, right before Christmas, as a matter of fact. You know something? Listen, those the men and women over there at the ports, they work super hard. It's a very thankless job and a very difficult job when you work at the ports, because you are moving these monster size crates, and it's dangerous. And
pay the people what they're owed. That's it.
They want to be paid fairly, and I don't think that's anything wrong with that. Yep, especially in 2024, where everything has gone up except our paychecks, unfortunately. But let's you know what? Again, I'm just gonna check something here to make sure Infinite Umber is not gonna not show up. Hold on a sec. Here it is. Let me just do a quick check. Apologies, I just did not get any messages from him, so of course we don't want to forget that he's here. No, he's still on the way, so we will have him here momentarily. But listen, Jamie, I want to open up with Starfield. I think that this is a big topic. You have a lot to think about, a lot to say about, I should say. One of the journalists that I enjoy their work, his name is Paul Tassi. Now, Paul, I like his work, and we don't always agree. And for the most part, he does a lot of things that kind of make you scratch the head. Well, he recently just did an article regarding Starfield. And, again, is it scandalous? Not so much, but it is. So I pull the article. It's in front of me, folks. So I want to read it verbatim. Paul Tassi, if you don't know who he is, you should follow him. Like I said, I like Paul's work. I really do. He writes for Forbes, and he does do good journalism. Occasionally, he does kind of clickbaity stuff, but I guess that's okay, because that's the industry as a whole. But he wrote an article, and he posted it yesterday, and obviously it's hot on the heels of what's going on with Starfield. It is now back in the news. And to be honest with you, it never really left, because there are still PlayStation gamers waiting for that announcement. And I don't think that's happening until next year, because I do think eventually they are going to get Starfield. But what we're talking about is the DLC known as Shattered Space. It is the first expansion for this game. This game is generational. I don't care what IGN or any of the other publications who gave it a 7 and below say. This is a generational game, and the DLC starts out in the biggest way possible. Anyone that bought the $100 edition, the collector's edition, or upgraded to the $30 edition because you played through Xbox Game Pass, got the DLC as part of that, at least the first DLC as part of that package. But it's the way he wrote the article that makes you want to click it. Now, I clicked it because I want to read it, and I don't want to potentially say anything negative to Paul if I didn't read his article. That would not be fair by just reading a headline. So I did read the article. He got me to click. And Jamie, it says Starfield's Shattered Space will indicate how much Bethesda wants to keep investing in it via Forbes. So of course I did pull the article, and it's an article. It's in written form. I mean, I could read it. it's just a lot of hypotheticals, and I just find it so odd that you could write an article with a headline like this and suggest that there is potentially some thought from Bethesda that they're not going to, their further support of this game is all being based on how Shattered Space is going to sell. Now, this is where I find it odd. And chat, please, if push back if you feel like I'm being facetious here. Who could raise their hand in the classroom, ladies and gentlemen, that remembers a publication that actually said, hey, look at the sales of this DLC? Because I don't ever recall that. Like, I've never, ever seen a DLC for a game more scrutinized than anything that Xbox does. Like, I've never seen, like, for instance, the DLC that came out for God of War, and it was free, was championed as the greatest thing since sliced bread. A roguelike game. Wow, we get to die and try this again with new powers. And because it was free, it was championed, right? I mean, I don't know. I just find it odd, but you have a thought and a theory, Jamie, and I really want to hear what you have to say.
You know, that's the problem with game journalism in 2024. You can write anything and it's put out there as fact, even if it's listed as an opinion piece. You know, I could write a paragraph on a piece of toilet paper and call it a gaming article, right? That's just how it works now. And, I don't have no problem with the dude, but I think that it came across very misleading because it's either he didn't do the research or just didn't know or didn't remember. So Starfield back in 2023, there was over 1 million people playing it before the game released. That were people that weren't playing it via Game Pass. That were people either bought the collector's edition, premium edition upgrade, or, the premium edition or whatever. So, like, all those people already pre-purchased the DLC. So that's over 1 million people before the game launched last September that already own the DLC. So it's already performed well. So that article didn't make any sense. Like, literally, it's already bought and paid for. And since then, the Shattered Space, or should I say a premium edition upgrade, that's been in the top 10 of the charts in the UK multiple times since then. So, like, they could have multiples of millions of people that already own that DLC. And seeing articles talking about sales for DLC, I never saw this for Shadow of the Earth Tree. I never saw this for any other game, but Starfield is an easy target because everyone loved Bethesda's RPGs, but for some reason, the Bethesda formula got tiresome with Starfield, apparently, to people. So the straw that broke the camel's back when it came to Bethesda RPG game design just happened to be the game that was exclusive to Xbox.
Can I chime in here real quick?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, jump in, brother. Absolutely.
So I want to make just a quick point about Starfield. So number one, the big factor behind Starfield to me that I think that everyone kind of has a magnifying glass on is because Starfield was supposed to be, well, it's a great game. But I think it was really scrutinized because Xbox was really needing an IP at that moment in time when it was coming out. There were all the chips were on the table for Starfield. As opposed to God of War, where everybody kind of knew what they were going to get and the series as a whole and all that kind of stuff. So Starfield as a whole had a microscope on it from the beginning. And when you have DLC that comes out, everybody's going to scrutinize it or look at it again or really kind of pick apart the DLC because they're expecting to find something wrong because they want to find something wrong. The approach is already from a negative standpoint from the get-go. I think if Starfield would have come out and Xbox would have had like 4 or 5 major IPs already kind of in the pipeline, and then Starfield would have came, it would have been a different conversation. They did the same thing to Redfall. Like, I'm not saying Redfall is a perfect game, but I'm saying it's not nearly as bad as people make it out to be. And I think this is a common discussion that we have with Xbox all the time. And like sports and like all these different hobbies that people have, when you have a target on something, whether it be a sports team, whether it be a racing car, whatever it may be, people tend to scrutinize it because people like negativity, and negativity sells articles and news articles and whatever. They're not going to get the clicks that they want if they're going to say, hey, this is a really good game, go out and buy it. No, they're going to get the clicks that they want when they say, well, this is kind of odd. Are they going to focus on this? Are they not? Like, what's going to happen here? Like everything is kind of like gloom and doom type situation. But that's just not the way we need to approach it. I mean, as a whole, I think everybody, even from a gaming community standpoint, should be happy that we have a game like Starfield in the mix. We have a game like No Man's Sky in the mix. We have all these, these titles that we can play and that we can experience, that we can enjoy. To pick it apart, there's no game that's perfect. But I do think that Starfield suffered with the same type of syndrome that Redfall ended up getting, which was, this game has to be bad because we need to talk about something bad about it, because we need to make articles on it, because we need clicks, and we need this to continue forward with this conversation. That's my opinion on it.
No,
Yeah.
it's a great take. Please continue, Jamie.
Yeah, so like that was kind of my point, that Starfield has been this easy target since the beginning. And if you go back to like the beginning of this generation, like really think about the first 2 years of this generation, almost everything we were playing, literally everything, was 60 frames per second across the board. And everything that was 30 became this punching bag. And we will always have 30 FPS games on console. That's always going to be the reality. But Starfield was an easy target because it's an ambitious game. It's doing things we do have things like No Man's Sky, but you don't have narrative storytelling in games like that. Starfield is an ambitious game, but the problem is that it had this hate behind it that I've never seen for a Bethesda game. I saw more hate for this than Fallout 76. More people were complaining about Fallout 76 and the canvas bag you got with that collector's edition. But like Starfield, like it's easy clicks. Go back to any big video you saw by any of the huge YouTube creators last year. It's Starfield video, Starfield video, Starfield video. And then over time, kind of died down because the game had been out for months. It wasn't getting single player expansions yet, and people were moving on to other things. But like I feel like in 2024 and 2023, like these games get these massive hate trains, but some games they come back and have these redemption arcs. Look at Cyberpunk 2077. That came out and it was an absolute mess. But like in 2022, do you know in 2022 they fixed that game, but nobody was talking about it? Nobody. Do you know when people start talking about it? Phantom Liberty and Edge Runners. That brought people back into the game. Like, oh yeah, it's fixed now. Starfield's been a great game since launch. It had issues, but it was the least buggiest Bethesda game ever. And Redfall had its issues because, again, 30 frames per second. People were losing their marbles over 30 frames. And the game had issues for me, mainly because it was advertised as an immersive sim, and it wasn't one. So that game, kind of fell flat for me. But Starfield, Shattered Space, it's got all these eyes on it because it has to correct these, issues with the game. And
well, it's no coincidence that it's the first exclusive, Bethesda IP for Xbox. Like,
yes.
let's talk about that for a moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that mean to people? Like, okay, this is not coming to other platforms for now. Xbox is getting something similar to No Man's Sky right now. We're not getting it on our designated platform, and we're gonna just do what we always do, which is essentially just trash it because of that very reason. There's so many different things. We can argue semantics all day as to why Starfield is targeted. But at the end of the day, I mean, I really do believe that it's not a coincidence that it is the first exclusive IP that Bethesda launched on Microsoft's console. And people looked at that and said, hey, this is, we got to trash it wherever we can. I think if this would have come out cross-gen and cross-platform from the get-go, I do think the conversation and narrative would be different at this moment in time for Starfield.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong there, dude. Yep.
Like that's my point. Like like Starfield had all these eyes on it. Like Elden Ring. Like Elden Ring, everyone was looking forward to it because we hadn't had a game like that for a long time. It was very accessible when it came to the genre. And when it came out, it was on every platform other than the Switch, and people loved it. Starfield had this wave of hype because when it was first announced, they didn't actually have any platforms tied to it, but people just assumed, it's a new Bethesda RPG. It's obviously going to be on Xbox and PlayStation and, PC and whatnot. But like Starfield, like it stirred people up. It really did. Like, go to any single post I've ever made on Twitter about Starfield and just scroll at the replies. There's these people that are hating on the game that they've never played it.
They've actually never played it, which is the worst.
Yeah, they've never played it. They have no intention of playing it. And if it ever does get announced for PlayStation, you know what they're going to be doing? They're going to be shouting it from the mountaintops like it's a 1980s music video. It's going to happen that way. I think that, Shattered Space, by the way, I haven't been able to play it yet, but I can see because I just finished downloading. But I can say that they fixed every issue I've had with the game, and there wasn't many. So, like for me, I can't wait to play it. And I think the article by Paul Tassi from Forbes or whatever, I think it's a bit misleading because again, over 1 million people were basically purchased the DLC before launch. We shouldn't be talking about the sales of a bloody expansion.
Yeah.
We rarely talk about this stuff. Like the concentration should be, hey, and we've talked about this before, Boom. Like gaming news in 2024 is no longer gaming news. It's leaks, rumors, talking about, which studio's closing down. It's all negativity and all this stuff. Game news back 15 years ago was, hey, this game's getting this cool new feature. This game's getting that new cool feature. Nobody's talking about any of these review outlets about the new features in the game.
Hey, Elusive, can I just chime into the chat for 2 seconds? They're saying about Morrowind, and I completely understand where you guys are coming from. The difference between Morrowind and Starfield is this: that Morrowind came out before Bethesda was owned by Microsoft. So, and then it eventually came to PlayStation. And also the actual gaming scene as a whole was completely different when Morrowind came out as opposed to right now. I mean, we can't argue the fact that toxicity in this field has become even more rampant. But when Morrowind first came out, I mean, that was a conversation where, hey, Microsoft got the rights to put Morrowind on Xbox before it went to PlayStation. That's the major difference here. Starfield, this has always been a conversation where Starfield is coming out on Xbox. It was touted at Xbox baby, this and that. It's a completely different thing altogether.
Yeah, I mean, listen. First of all, great points all around, and we'll get back to you in a second, Jamie. But I do want, I know some people have been going back and forth about the whole exclusivity play, folks. Listen, let's not pretend that PlayStation did not try to lock this up as a permanent exclusive of how special this game is. Now, granted, things have changed. Ideologies at Xbox have changed. They want to make money. Listen, you know my stance on this, and I'm not going to reiterate it to death. I have a way that I would run the business, and that would be the Peter Moore way. But that's also not the way that's not the era that we're living in. The way that Peter Moore ran it was a guy that got tattoos on his left and right arms to prove a point. And you know what? You wanted to play an Xbox game, you were buying an Xbox. That's not the case nowadays, where it's different ideologies, and it's fine. I'm getting it in Game Pass. I've come to realize that my way of thinking is no longer the way that they do business. What am I going to do? Throw a temper tantrum and leave the brand? Now, I'm not saying that to point any fingers. I'm just saying that to me, that doesn't make any sense, because as a retired consumer who does value his money, who does have to be a little bit more frugal with his money, having Game Pass allows me to be a part of the conversation on every game that is.
Boom, can I ask you a question?
Party. Sure.
Do you think, like, I like to make a bet on this with chat. How much do you guys want to bet that if Starfield were to come out on PlayStation before Xbox, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, Bethesda was never, acquired by Xbox, and the story was told differently, and Starfield launched on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation
10 out of
5,
10, bro. 10 out of 10.
I really believe this game would have probably scored either 8 or 9 out of 10 by default, just because it's a PlayStation title. But because the narrative was completely different, and this was supposed to be, and still is, was supposed to be the saving grace for Xbox, as every title is supposed to be the saving grace for Xbox. It was obviously looked at under a microscope. So I just think that is a huge factor, because let's not forget that Starfield was being developed on PlayStation at the same time it was being developed on Xbox.
Yes.
Then they were acquired, and then they shifted it over. But I guarantee you, if it would have come out on PlayStation before Xbox, PlayStation fans and PlayStation would have advertised the shit. Excuse my friends. They would have advertised the shit out of this game.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They would have put it everywhere, because that's one thing they have over Xbox. I'll give it that. They know how to advertise, and they would have advertised it everywhere. And every PlayStation fan would be like, oh my God, check out our new, it's like No Man's Sky. It's coming on PlayStation first. This is crazy. It would have came out. IGN would have freaking, oh my God. I can't, like, it's just the conversation as a whole. This is all based around console wars and all this conversation that always transpires when it comes to these console exclusives. But I really do believe that.
But you're not wrong. That's the thing. Coffee. You're not wrong, because, and we're going to bring Umbra in here in a second. I'll even take it a step further. Let me bring Umbra in so he can chime in a second. Umbra, what's going on, brother? Welcome. How you feeling?
Hey, Bo. Good morning, guys. Good morning, everybody. I'm okay. Tired, but I'm
Yeah, well, of
okay.
course. Well, you work midnight, so of course you would be tired. Have you had a chance to play Starfield's newest expansion as of yet, sir?
I have not yet,
Okay,
unfortunately.
so again, I'm not sure if you've been listening or not. Though the question isn't so much, what your experience has been. It's been the rhetoric around it. Again, it's Starfield's in the news, and in some publications, the Starfield's future is depending on the sales of this new expansion, which is just hogwash, to be honest with you. But Coffee, you're not wrong, and I'll take it a step further. Jamie, Infinite, and Coffee. I'll even make it as fair and even keeled as possible. If Starfield last September releases on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series, this is game of the year. This is game of the year. You would have heard talk of game of the generation. You would have seen potentially, again,
You would have seen a Jeff Keighley tweet?
You would have seen more than one tweet. I think that if Star, and that's the other thing, when Starfield does eventually get announced for it, get ready for the clickers, folks, because he's going to tweet about it at least 17 times.
It'll be the best game ever.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be the best game ever. But look, Umbra, look, what we're talking about specifically is Paul Tassi, and then you know Paul, obviously, and maybe not personally, and I don't know Paul personally. We've talked, right? I guarantee you that he doesn't agree with my takes. And for the most part, I do agree with his. Some I do not. So, and this is one of them where I kind of feel like this is being a misleading article. And listen, Forbes is no small entity in the gaming space. Forbes is a reputable newspaper or internet presence, if you will. And his article leads with Starfield's shattered space will indicate how much Bethesda wants to keep investing in it. I mean, it's already leaked that the next expansion is already being worked on, and that is, of course, we know about that because it leaked. Now, could they change? Sure. It's unlikely. It's probably going to have a year expansion almost every year. I don't know when they're going to quote unquote get a Starfield 2, but they're going to continue the story. This is a very big world. You've played quite a bit of it yourself. Let's talk about some of the rhetoric, because it's not just Paul. I've seen the stuff out there, and I will not mention the sites by name simply because I refuse to add any traffic to their ridiculousness. But I've seen quite a few specifically point out that Starfield's life or death is all surrounding how many people buy the DLC. I mean, the last time I checked, there were over 14 million players. It sold pretty damn good on Xbox and even better potentially on Steam. I don't understand the rhetoric, but I do. What are your thoughts there, Umbra?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of a bit of lack of news to cover. So they go back to the old will, it feels like, after a time. You know what I mean? And I feel like, sure, Tassie, as you mentioned here, or others may have people they've spoken to behind the scenes that have given them the idea of something that's possible. But at the same time, you got to look at some of the things we know about, which is like, that this was their biggest launch ever, right? The biggest title they've ever launched
in the history of the company, which is 25 years old. PS, by the way.
Yeah. Then you hear things like that, and you think like, well, they're saying this will determine that, and it's like, well, things can change, but Howard is already going on record, I believe, saying that they would be supporting it for the long haul for 10 plus years, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel like, yeah, you think that it might hinge on that. Maybe he's heard some things that made him believe that, but I feel like we haven't as an audience haven't heard anything or seen anything that would indicate that being the case. I don't get the. I also don't get the. I try not to focus when it comes to the rhetoric, I guess, of journalists or whatever. I try not to focus on that nonsense really, typically. So like a lot of this is foreign to me when I hear it anyway. But I feel like it's a bit. It's always the thing when it comes to Xbox, as we all know. I don't have to go into detail about that, but it is the whole overall kind of negativity always surrounding the brand that I think the journalists have been used to going to that well, and it is just kind of tired at this point. Specifically for this, I don't understand. Like if he just said this for, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something else Xbox has that makes sense. I can't even think of anything right now because everything else they have, this live service essentially is doing decently well as well. Like you couldn't use it for Diablo, you damn sure couldn't use it for Call of Duty.
Wait,
So I
Infinite
think-
Umbra, you're telling me you a company doesn't invest over $150 million into a game and then shuts it down after 2 weeks? Does that sound a little familiar to you guys?
Well,
That
yeah,
sounds
you
very
know.
familiar. Actually,
It's called investment, and it's called trying to reap rewards from investment people. Like we've seen this happen already. Like I think PlayStation is the only company at this moment in time that would invest $400 million into an IP and then shut it down 2 weeks after the fact.
yeah.
Like, let's be real here. Talk
Yeah,
about an L.
Yeah, they're not going to Concord this up right here. You know, we got to use Concord.
I
As a
like what you
verb
did
now.
there, sir. I like what
Yeah,
you
they're
did there.
not.
I mean, that's probably what you should be saying from here on out, right? Are you going to Concord this up?
They're going to Concord it up, Concordia. But yeah, no, like no, I agree. Coffee, it's a weird thing. I like I said, I think they kind of go to the well after a time, and I think news has kind of been a thing where people have to kind of look for this evergreen content. You know what I mean? And it feels like Xbox is that easy little, I guess, step stool to step on for news.
Let's
at
not forget the
times.
Lions are hungry as well, right? I mean, gaming news has been pretty dry for the past
Mhm.
couple of months, and now it's starting to pick up again. And what's going to happen is that all those Lions who have been starving are going to come out and try and pick apart everything they possibly can because they've been pinching pennies up until this point in time with gaming news. So that's my thought.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's where I'm at with it when it comes to that, and that's why I said I don't really tend to pay attention to what they're talking about when it comes to that. I'll listen to things that like maybe a Schreier might point out some major stuff behind the scenes we didn't know about. Okay, cool, yeah, this is happening behind the scenes, or work conditions of this, or blah blah blah, stuff like that. I'll pay attention to. When it comes to like opinion pieces, that's neither nor there for me. I'm kind of like, okay, whatever, that's your thoughts. It means nothing to me. And I don't even mean it disrespectfully. It just doesn't do anything for me when I hear their opinion about that or something or whatever concerning whatever. That's just their thoughts. You know what I mean? So I don't put much stock in it in either direction, really. I just look at it like it feels like again, they go to this well of negativity when it comes to Xbox, and Xbox is the easy, I guess, one to use in this instance because one, they have a lot of development and studios and such that they can kind of pinpoint to and say, hey, well, this one right here didn't do well, like Redfall, blah blah blah. So they can go to that and kind of say, yeah, well, Microsoft made a misstep with this, so let's focus on that again and let's go a different twist, whatever, right? I feel like that might be the thing, though. You would feel like, why wouldn't they do that for Sony with Concord, right? Like that would be odd that they're not focusing on that.
I mean,
But
to touch a little bit on that with
yeah.
from like a development standpoint. I have a few friends of mine that work at ZeniMax over in Austin.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, Bethesda, ZeniMax as a whole, the work environment and work output there is very healthy. The people enjoy working there. Like again, I've never heard of anything coming from the inside that is like, there's massive amounts of crunch and we're worried about this or whatever. Like there's a lot of free range for creativity.
Right.
So I mean, we should be, if we're going to champion development processes and what we see from PlayStation's end with things like Concord or The Last of Us or KOF factions, we need to talk about like development processes and how it's actually pretty healthy on Xbox's end with all of that. I mean, they allow a free flowing creativity process. The people that work there are very happy to be working there. And I mean, we can argue layoffs and stuff like that, but that occurs when acquisitions happen. That's just part of the nature of the beast. But the fact that we got a game like Starfield and people that made it put their heart and soul into it and had fun time creating it as well, is a huge bonus for just like the health of the industry as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agreed. And until I see otherwise, as far as Microsoft coming out and I guess, or even making moves that show that the product isn't doing well, I don't have a need to listen to their opinion piece on it. I feel like Shattered Space just dropped. Literally, I hadn't even got a chance to get to it. And yeah, I'm hearing positive reactions and
You're gonna
stuff
dig it,
from
dude. You like me, we play very similar, where you give us this open space. We have a mission, we have what we have to do, but you do have the ability to find different things. Like some of the weapons that I found that are so different, because of course they're the House of Varun. They're weapons, they're their armor. I found lots of it so far. Some of it is, I could take it or leave it. And other stuff is like, oh, yeah, this gun is going to do me really well. And dude, it is so good. The opening 35, 40 minutes is probably the best I've ever played in a DLC, because it gives you this Dead Space-esque feeling, but still retains what Starfield is. It is.
Why are we not championing this right now? Like that's the problem I have with all of this conversation. Is that like why don't we take a step back and look at this? We have a game right now that's on Xbox, exclusive to Xbox at this moment in time. That's not going to be for long. I'll tell you that. It's going to eventually come to PlayStation. But what I tell you is this: we should be championing the fact that we have an exclusive game on Xbox right now that has built enough lore behind it that we have a DLC within this lore that is more linear in nature, that is Dead Space-like, and that is giving us this option to play this type of game within a Starfield universe. When we can look at this and say, what else does Bethesda have on the table when it comes to this lore that they've created? Because that's how they work. They're all about that. Like Starfield is Starfield. Now we have Shattered Space. And now what's going to be next? That lore is just compounding over each other. So like, I think that this is a phenomenal thing to have this and be able to play this on Xbox and champion, your console and say like, hey, like I'm able to play this, either this linear mission type story within Starfield, or I have the vast world available to me with amazing post-game content.
No, I mean, listen, and again, this is why we do come on to these shows to kind of talk about our experiences. What we're going to wind up doing is coming back to the well on this, because Jamie hasn't had a chance to play, neither has Umbra. I've put about maybe 7 or 8 hours into it. I'm very much enjoying it.
Would you say the opening, by the way, for it is better than the opening for the base game?
I do. I do. I think the way it's set up, where again, you do whatever warp from whatever planet, you grab jump, and then you find yourself in front of this massive space station, and obviously they're calling for help. So you go and you dock with them, and you get there, and it's dark, and it's moody, and it's everyone's dead. There's no gravity whatsoever on the thing. You got to figure out what the H happened. His body's floating all over the place. It definitely has a Dead Space-esque kind of a feeling to it, where you're like, okay, now I'm looking around every corner. Like I said, the lights are flickering. You got to get the power back on. At some point, you got to add gravity. It is very well done, and it's probably one of my favorite DLCs that I've played from Bethesda in a very long time. So I again, if you have not played it, folks, you were waiting. Definitely stop what you're doing and play this game, because you're gonna love it. And the House of Varun is incredibly mysterious, very culty, in my opinion. Where obviously their god is this serpent god, and you're trying to figure out what's happening. You are looked upon as an outcast. Most people won't even talk to you, because it's just the House of Varun, and that's it. Now, like in the mission that I'm in, I'm going around to each of the families, because there's multiple families that make up this council, and you got to get acceptance from each of the families, almost like the mafia for some. It kind of feels like a bit, but it's well worth your time, 1,000% worth your time. But look, we are 41 minutes into the show. so far, Coffee has who's joining us for the first time, knocked it out of the park. Obviously, as expected, Jamie's done what he normally does. He gives us a rant and he backs it up with fact. And of course, Umber is here joining us, giving us why he doesn't pay attention to the rhetoric. But I gotta catch up on super chats, ladies and gentlemen. Then we're gonna get into, well, Jamie, I'm gonna go right back to you because you did a video about the top 20 games coming in October. But I think that when you look at Xbox as a publisher, they really have the best lineup in gaming. And again, shout out to Clobriel, who put out a tweet where in the next 150 days, these are the games that are coming out. And mind you, there were some games that were left off the list because, well, he only had so much room in regards to the pictures and the text that he could write. Xbox is hitting on all cylinders. And I think there's something to be said about if you're not on Xbox, you are honestly missing out. And that's just my personal take on it. If you disagree, I'm not going to fight you on it. But we're going to go over what exactly is coming out from now to the first quarter of 2025. And quite frankly, folks, all of it's in Game Pass. All of it are bangers. And you know what? The genre that's on display here, everything from first-person shooters to isometric top-down D&D crawlers to flight sims to the RTSs. Everything may not be for you per se, but there is definitely something there that you're going to dig. But Adidas 20 drops a very generous $10 $2 super chat and says, I like I always say, the Xbox 360 era is back. You know what? You're not wrong. I feel that it is kind of 360-esque, if you will. I Love Coffee, who, of course, is on the panel, drops a very generous $10 super chat. And he says, thanks for having me, brother. Listen, you don't have to do the super chat, but we definitely appreciate it. And we will use it to great degree when we do our giveaway. So, Coffee, thank you so much for the generosity there, brother. Will Broke Boy Lewis, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Will goes on to say, they are still pissed that Xbox took away Starfield from PlayStation, even though PlayStation was trying before that to take away the game from Xbox and make it exclusive to them. Yeah, and that's a confirmed fact, ladies and gentlemen. That's not even a suggestion or a rumor. Sony was trying to not steal away. Listen, they're a business. They got to make money, but they were trying to exclusify Starfield because they knew how special it was going to be. And instead of paying the money for the game, well, Microsoft just bought, instead of the cow, they bought the whole farm. And good for us because it's in Game Pass. We have Nino Vestic, our generous friend, all the way from Hawaii. Aloha, my brother. He has gifted, as he does on a regular basis, one Double Barrel Gaming membership. And if you did get that, please, by all means, thank this man. Greatly appreciate it. The generosity as always. Will Broke Boy Lewis drops an additional two super chats, one of $2. He says, geez, Boom, you're Cork now and stole my point. He's talking about Corkenstein seems to always read his mind. It's hilarious. But sorry about that, Will. And Will goes on to say with an additional very generous $5 super chat. Doing it now with Indie announced as Xbox exclusive first person PlayStation people. That's dumb. Now are coming to PlayStation. FP is an interesting and it is an interesting and could work. If I recall, the rhetoric with Indiana Jones before it was announced for PlayStation was people, very, very vocal PlayStation gamers, said, oh, I can't play this because I'm going to get motion sickness. And those same folks, and again, we don't do names here, folks, because we know we don't need that kind of smoke. It's childish, and I'm older than 5 years old. Went out and championed when they running victory laps when Indie was announced for PlayStation 5 in spring of next year. So just take that for what it's worth. But Jamie, I want to go back to you. Look, as you saw by my thumbnail, there are a lot of IP on the front part of the thumbnail. Indiana Jones is happening in December. It is one of my most anticipated games for a multitude of reasons. A lot of personal stuff behind it. Like I said, I went to the theater with my pops way back in the days to see the first one, and it was a just great bonding experience. And I couldn't believe he took me to a film that someone's face got melted off. It was awesome. And that's what dads do, right? Shattered Space, even though the DLC is not in Game Pass, you could obviously buy it at a discount. I think it was like 26 and change if you bought bought it directly, or you got it when you upgraded for the $100 edition, and instead of buying the $100 edition, you paid $30, and there you go. Avowed is another game that is going to slap. That is going to be a big release for Xbox next year. Obviously, we are 7 days away from Diablo 4's Vessel of Hatred. That is going to be another monster-sized DLC. It's bringing a whole bunch of new things to the game, and everyone's excited about it. This is coming off the heels of Shattered Space. But you also got to remember that this is not the only list of games that are happening. You still have Flight Sim. You still have, Stalker 2, which is coming out November 20th. Now, granted, that is not first party. It is in Xbox Game Pass, and it is currently an exclusive to the box. And every time you see that game, you're pretty impressed. At least I am, for sure. Let's talk about this roadmap, if you will, because again, based on some of the things that have been happening with PlayStation recently, they don't have their sea legs like they used to. They're definitely a bit, I would say, defanged, if you will. And again, that's just my hot take on it. They obviously, they're just not hitting the way they used to hit. Even Nintendo has a bunch of stuff coming out at the end of the year, but it's not a new Mario. The Zelda just released. I bought it. It got really good reviews. It's a gorgeous looking game. A lot of people are enjoying it. But if you were to kind of just set up all three platforms on a desk and look what's happening from now to the end of the year, it is definitely all Xbox all day long. Let's get your hot take, man.
I think the strong suit for Xbox is variety. There is so much variety coming out that you literally have anything to choose from. Like, they recently dropped Age of Mythology Retold. That is an excellent RTS on a controller. And if people aren't really familiar with RTSs, I highly recommend it. It's a good game to get into.
I just downloaded. I've never played one before, and that series.
Yeah, it's really good, easy to get into, and also it plays a lot like Age of Empires 4, which
does
is
it play
also
like Halo Wars at all? Because I know Halo Wars is really set for console as well.
Kind of. A lot of RTS games on console do the whole radial wheel thing where you hold it makes the circle bigger. Yeah, basically like that. But yeah, Age of Mythology, Age of Empires, like I love RTS games, by the way. And the problem is on console you don't get many. I could probably name every RTS console on Xbox on one hand. And that's sad, but thankfully it's getting better. Anyway, it's a big deal for Xbox this year because we just got that RTS. It reviewed well. It plays amazing. It's got a great story. And also Flight Simulator 2024. A lot of people don't really realize what that game is. It isn't just flying around the world, landing, flying, landing. Like, it's got activities. You can do Red Bull air racing. You can save people from mountaintops, like that have gone hiking with a helicopter. You can save people on an oil rig that's on fire. Like, it's a very activity-based game, but also it's got a graphical overhaul where it looks literally a generation ahead of Flight Simulator 2020, which was already a stunning game. And also, it's crazy to think about, in 2024, you can actually get out the plane and walk around Earth. Right? There's so much detail in that game. It's going to blow people's minds when it comes out. But Call of Duty, it's a big deal because not only are you getting level-based zombies, which people have been wanting to return for years and years now, you have multiplayer that has reinvigorated people's excitement for multiplayer because you have omnidirectional movement. And as someone that doesn't play multiplayer that much, let me tell you, that movement is some of the best gameplay I've ever had.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I'm one of these people that back in the day, Call of Duty, I was probably one of the best in the country. And now my cat could probably beat me at COD. But that's what you get for having a 12-year break from Call of Duty multiplayer. But the gameplay is it's incredible. It really is. Being able to sprint in any direction in a first-person shooter, it sounds weird, but oh my God, it's amazing. And then you have the Call of Duty campaign. Black Ops is always good. And this looks like it's going to be ambitious. It's had the longest development cycle of any Call of Duty campaign ever, which is huge. So Call of Duty's back, right? Last year's Call of Duty, it was essentially a $70 expansion. Everyone knows that, And then you have Indiana Jones. I've loved Indiana Jones my entire life, ever since I was a
Oh.
little kid. And I love machine games. So them two things together, it's perfect. Yes, it's a first-person action adventure game, and I love the fact that it's first-person because it's different. Do you know if that was third-person, people would be running around saying it's an Uncharted clone, because they would have. But it's different, and all the gameplay features we've heard about this game, it's got you have to actually solve riddles and actually find your way through tombs like you would in an Indiana Jones film. It's true to form the Indiana Jones trilogy, and not like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and that disaster that released last year, but it's true to form. And then early next year, you have all the oh yeah, by the way, Stalker 2, been in development for a long time, a follow-up to the 2007 game, which people have been wanting for obviously a long time, and it looks fantastic. People don't actually realize how big that game is, and it's an Unreal Engine 5 open world game. It has 60 FPS mode for all the people that want it. It's going to be a great game. But early next year, all the investment Microsoft has into all these games and all these Game Pass deals, I've noticed this trend going on for a while. They are almost all single player. Almost all of them.
Indeed.
Atomfall coming out next year, single player game. Sniper Elite Resistance, single player game. Expedition 33, single player game. So
Fable.
Fable. Obviously, Fable's going to be a single player. South of Midnight, we don't have a release date of that, but obviously single player. But Microsoft's investment it's obvious at this point. We can all see it. And people like to hate on them for doing Game Pass and all this stuff. By the way, you know how we were just talking about journalists not doing the job or not researching all this stuff? I absolutely hate this thought that we must hate Game Pass because gamers are afraid of subscription services. You have these journalists out there that come out and say, what if they lock games behind a service? Do you know none of these journalists actually go out there and complain about Apple Arcade?
Yep.
Which actually locks games to the service, meaning you can't buy the games in the subscription. So you have to subscribe. Anyway, bit of a rant. But Xbox, their main problem for a long time were games. They needed a lineup every year. That's why people are excited about roadmaps, right? Microsoft never really had a roadmap. They never had enough studios. They never really talked about releases, and some of their games were years out. And a lot of their games that were coming out were made by third-party developers. They had rocky relationships with these developers, the whole Crackdown situation. We saw what happened with Scalebound, but now they have more studios than most people realize. A lot of their studios are making multiple games to the point where they're going to be coming out every year with a single-player RPG. They're going to be coming out every single year with maybe something different, like an RTS or a flight sim. We already hearing rumors of a StarCraft shooter, which I'm all in on that.
Yes.
But Xbox is exciting at the minute. It's really exciting because we are all talking about games, right? People have been wanting Xbox to come out with games for a long time. They have a roadmap. They have a roadmap for the next few years. We don't even have a release date of Perfect Dark and Gears, but we know they're coming and they're going to be bloody good. So, on the games front, Microsoft sorted. Really, people want to talk about, the multi-platform stuff and all that stuff, but on a platform-centric thing, Xbox, they're in a great place. The next few months, the next year and a half alone is going to be great. And still, there's games coming out next year that haven't been announced yet. So, yes, variety, packed, amount of games coming, packed, and the third-party Game Pass deal is incredible, really.
Yeah, and we haven't even really mentioned now how many games actually come to Xbox Game Pass. Corpy, let's bring you in on the conversation, brother. The roadmap for Xbox is incredible. If you look at, again, if you just want to go based on what has released, Starfield's DLC released yesterday. It is getting tremendous buzz, both positive and negative. But if you just look into the next couple of months, it is a stacked deck. And I think even though Indiana Jones is going to be one of those games that people are going to walk away completely blown away, like myself. Again, I'm a Starbreeze fan. A lot of the development team is from Starbreeze, who made the Riddick games. If you play the Riddick games and you know what those games are, you definitely get that kind of feeling by just watching what they're doing with Indiana Jones. The big conversational piece here, where I think you're going to start to see a real shift in the industry in regards to who is the market leader, is Black Ops 6 in Xbox Game Pass on October 25th. That is bonkers. I still can't believe it's happening, but this roadmap that includes games, all from different genres, as well as DLC, is why Xbox, at least in my opinion, is set up to win. Let's get your thoughts.
So Avowed, Indiana Jones, Stalker 2, Fable, Perfect Dark, Gears of War. The list goes on and on here. And I don't want to sound like a trying to make things spicy here, but I'm going to make it a bit spicy for a moment. I saw the state of play. And the only thing that PlayStation at this moment in time has to look forward to is Ghost of Tsushima, which is a great game.
Yes.
By all means, it's a great game. But if I was a PlayStation fan right now, and honestly, I even understand from a business standpoint where PlayStation is coming from with only having Ghost of Tsushima to show off. That is because they are not as big of a company as Microsoft is. They don't have those Microsoft dollars. They just spent a shit ton of money on Bungie. They just lost a shit ton of money on Concord. They are not in the position. Their TVs don't sell like that anymore. Their products don't sell like that anymore. PlayStation is their brand that makes them the money. Okay. We can even see right now with the PS5 Pro. It's not selling like the way it should, which we all knew was going to happen. Okay. And we're getting back to a point in the conversation with Sony where when you give them that non-competitive type conversation, they start to raise their prices. They start to take advantage. They start to move the needle a bit in the direction to which of greed, which all companies want to make money at the end of the day. But if you look at what Xbox is doing right now, Xbox is giving you options. Sony is giving you Ghost of Tsushima. Yes, they have probably other games in the pipeline with Santa Monica Studios, with Naughty Dog, all bangers. They're probably going to be huge titles. But the reality is probably they have not been able to dump the money they want to into these titles because they're trying to make up off the back end, this massive investment that they undertook. While Xbox, they dropped $42 billion on Activision Blizzard acquisition. That's chump change to them. That's literally chump change. So I'm just so confused all the time at the narrative of like Xbox is going down, they're failing, they're done, they're going third party. Heck yeah, they're going third party because they're smart. They want to put their stuff on everywhere so that everybody can give them the dollars that they want to make at the end of the day. I just, when I see Xbox, I see options. When I see PlayStation, I see these single player titles like movies that people can enjoy and that are phenomenal in their own right. But they're few and far between. The development time, development cost on them is showing, as Sean Layden put so many times, is showing as non-lucrative to the company, no matter how good the game is. PlayStation cannot argue the fact that if it's not making dollar, it's not making sense, to quote Everborn, right? This is what it is at the end of the day. They've lost a shit ton of money, and they're trying to make it back wherever they can. So they're desperate. They're trying to get into these titles to which they can make as much money as possible to make off the back end. Xbox, on the other hand, they're good. Like, they're releasing their games. They're taking the feedback. They're trying to win back Japan. They're trying to come out with these single player titles, these third person titles. And last but not least, I want to say, if those in the chat want to throw Hellblade into the discussion, I will say this. Hellblade 2 was a title that was supposed to be a moving cinematic experience. And I can't understand how people, when they play that game, they don't see how gorgeous the game is, number one, but they also don't see what type of game it is and the type of game it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a moving piece of artwork that you control, like Until Dawn was. But nobody said anything about Until Dawn. Nobody says anything about these other games that did the same exact thing. So I just think, as a whole, Xbox, they're on the right track. They're doing what they need to do. And at the end of the day, they're giving you options. And they're giving you options at a price point that is unbeatable. They're letting you do the Netflix of gaming.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. I'm so confused as to why people can sit here and argue all day about like, yeah, but PlayStation's PlayStation. And it doesn't, the brand name is there, yes, but they are, and I'm not going to even sit here and say they're not a good brand. They are, but they are suffering big time right now with the loss that they've taken on with Bungie. I know people within Bungie that I speak to on a regular basis that can tell me that studio is imploding as we speak.
Yeah,
As we
that's what
speak.
We've heard that. Yep.
Like there's so much loss on Sony's end right now. So right now they're betting on whatever they can. Jade Raymond's game coming out, already going to be a flop. We saw what happened with Concord. I already know inside news about Bungie's new title, about what's going on with that, and how they don't have a clue how they want to Marathon, how they want to market it, what they're doing with it. Everything is just falling on top of them. So what they do is they just put out Ghost of Tsushima, and they're like, hey guys, we're still doing something here, but this is what we can do for right now.
Yeah. And that's what it seems like. Again, it's going to be a great game. It is a sequel. It takes place 300 years, past what happened with Jin. Hopefully, we get to finish off Jin's story at some point. Interestingly enough, before I bring Umber in, you made mention of Hellblade. Now, Hellblade 2 is a game of the generation. I don't care what anyone says. There is no better looking game than that game right now, currently. It is Unreal Engine 5 that has been sent away, and they've done things with that game that no one else has done. Look at some of the photo, and these are photo mode from the game you're taking, that you cannot distinguish that they're not real. That is how incredible it looks. Let's call a spade a spade. But the truth of the matter is very similar to Starfield. If that would have been a PlayStation exclusive, PlayStation 5 exclusive, and or released at the same time, it would have won every award possible. And what's crazy is that there were actual reviewers. And when this game first came, when it first launched at the beginning of the year, I believe it was in May, there were a lot of very, very disingenuous takes. As a matter of fact, some reviewers wrote like unbelievable pressers regarding their emotional take to the character and the way the story was made and told, and how for the first one, when it was conveniently a PlayStation exclusive. The minute it jumped to Xbox and it was an Xbox exclusive, and the company and the developer is owned by Microsoft, the same reviewer, literally the same reviewer, said, "Oh, I can't get into the character. It doesn't feel real." And what happened? Because it's a leaps and bounds better game in every aspect: storytelling, graphics, control, the combat, everything that people had an issue with has been addressed, and somehow it got a much lower score. That's because it's not on PlayStation. It's blatantly obvious. But Umbra, let's talk about this future roadmap that we have in front of us. Now, we've talked about the roadmap before, but I'm talking about named games, actual games that have release dates, actual games that we know that are going to be out in the next, quarter of the year, which is November, December, October, November, December, and of course, the first quarter of the year with Avowed. It is pretty stacked, and this is all first party. There is one that's not in Stalker 2. It is a console exclusive. It is Game Pass day and date. But all of these major IPs, all of these major titles are without the regular Game Pass drops that have been nothing short of bombastic. Let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, as far as a bombastic thought on that, Boom, I think Coffee kind of summed it up really well. I think him and Jamie both. I don't know much more I can add to it outside the fact that, the outline of what we have to come is pretty solid. Like even your thumbnail speaks to it. Indiana Jones to Shattered Space right now, to Diablo's DLC, to Avowed in the future, of course, and Call of Duty. Now, I'm not the biggest Call of Duty fan, but I know I am in the minority there. It's all looking positive for Xbox in that direction. I think that it feels like, again, I think it goes back to what's the word I want to use here? I think it goes to kind of a mindset when it comes to Xbox, where they, people tend to look at it like, oh, this is expected or whatever, so they don't really get the credit necessarily that it deserves. And also seeing how a lot of these are inside of Game Pass. Well, not a lot. All of these are in Game Pass. And to Coffee's point, you're not going to find it at any better price point and things of the nature than this. And I think because of that, and because of Microsoft just being Microsoft, people kind of tend to overlook all the positives of all of these being lined up like this. He's right. If this was PlayStation, I agree, it would be much more praise heaped on it when it comes to that. But you don't really see that when it comes to this. So I definitely get it. I don't know what else really to add to this outside of, yes, a solid roadmap of games for the rest of the year. And that's not even including third party. I mean, because if you look at third party added onto it, we still have the Metaphor Fantasios. We still have the Stalker 2s. You know what I mean? So we still have so many more other games I could go to the well of and grab at. But it's just first party alone, really solid. And I will say it is due for us to get this kind of a solid, I guess, cadence of drops when it comes to first party as well, because the year has been kind of sparse when it comes to first party drops of the year. Hellblade 2, going to your point, being Unreal Engine 5, that woke me up a little bit when you said that. So by the way, Unreal, they're having a little conference right now for Unreal, if you all didn't know. And they just highlighted Black Myth. Anyway, going to that, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Most beautiful current visual game out there. No game comes close as far as that. I listen, I played Black Myth, I played all these other games, gorgeous games. Hellblade 2 still holds the crown. But yeah, all these different things that people would clamor for if it was a different platform. I think people kind of have been used to downplaying Xbox when it comes to that, just because, and I don't know what it's tied to. I would imagine it's tied to Microsoft in general, because I think there's typically this kind of corporate thing when it comes to Microsoft in a lot of people's eyes, I feel like, and I've known that in the past that people used to have that. They used to be really blatantly open about it, and I think that resentment is still kind of there. So they tend to not give it its due. But I mean, if you're a consumer like us, you're a Game Pass subscriber, you have nothing but great games to look forward to. So as my man would say, how would he say this? Rejoice. Yeah, nothing but good stuff.
I just want to say real quick too, like a big thing, like examples, you got to look at facts, right? Facts are always going to dominate the conversation, and what you have in front of you to use as that evidence of your discourse, the discourse out right now. So let's talk a bit about the PS5 Pro and what the PS5 Pro has been showing off. For me, like if I wasn't intrinsically involved in the industry and I was on the outside looking in, a gamer who was looking at state of play, the lack of showing off what they're trying to show for PS5 Pro power, potential of power, nothing that they've shown on that box is even close to looking like Hellblade 2 looks.
Indeed.
Nothing. What does that tell you? That tells you that Xbox Series X has always been the more powerful console, because that's just been stated from the beginning. We know this. It's more powerful than PS5. Did they use it to the capacity they need to up until this point? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. But I truly believe Hellblade 2 was like Microsoft saying, hey, this is an 8-hour game, but this is going to be excuse me, I got to curse again because I'm just so excited about this. This is going to be the fucking Mona Lisa of games right now for you to take a look at and see what we're capable of on this end. Sony has not done anything. They want you to pay $750 with tax, of course, as everyone leaves out the tax conversation. They always say
they do.
Yeah. Oh, but let's talk about tax a bit. They want you to pay the $800+ for a PS5 Pro. But what have they shown as far as power is concerned that people are going to look at and say, I want the best looking thing on this console. I want to show off this console to my friends. They've shown Ghost of Tsushima, that sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, that looks like a PS4 game still. They've shown 4 people in the background of Gran Turismo that you can have extra. They've shown Ratchet and Clank running a little bit, 5 more frames. They've shown that Alan Wake you're going to have ray tracing. You're still going to run at 30. They've shown like there's nothing that is that Hellblade 2 quality. And I
No.
just can't understand why people don't see that. I don't like it doesn't make any sense to me. It's so infuriating because if we want to talk about power, because that's the main discourse all the time that you see in these threads of like PlayStation versus Xbox versus Switch, obviously is out of the conversation altogether because it's a cell phone in your hands that plays Mario and Zelda games. But when it comes to power, that's always what people are going to use for the discourse, whether it be on any show, any platform, Twitter, whatever the case may be. And I just see that people never use that part of the discourse for Xbox. And what happens? The people reciprocate in a way that they're like, okay, yeah, that's a really good looking game, but it's only 5 hours long. What does that mean? If you want to talk about power, let's talk about power. Let's talk about the looks. Let's talk about how this looks on screen. What am I seeing? I'm seeing that I can pay probably at this point in time $450 for a Series X, get games that look like Hellblade 2 eventually, because I know the system can do it. Or I'm seeing a $700 console that doesn't have a stand, okay, that doesn't give you anything, that has no titles on it that are going to show off this crazy power that they're claiming, okay? And why didn't they put Pisser in PS5? Why didn't Mark Cerny put Pisser in PS5? Why is that their touting thing for them right now for this console? That they could have easily put that on PS5 as well, but they didn't. They wanted to sell you on a console. They wanted to put their version of the technology in that console to upscale, to do what they need to do with AI, to cheat the system, so to speak. Okay. And now they're going to get people's money from it. But hopefully now what I'm seeing is that people are smarter than that now. They're seeing this and you're like, yeah, you know what? I don't know. I'm not seeing anything on this end that's going to really sell me on this right now. Let's wait and see. I guarantee you, if a game were to come out on PS5 Pro that used the Unreal Engine 5 that looked like Hellblade 2, then we can have a true competitive discourse about power and which one looks better. But at the moment in time, that's all I tell people all the time. I'm like, okay, you got your PlayStation, I got my Xbox. This is what this looks like to me. You guys got a game that looks like Hellblade 2?
Well, I mean, I'll say this: you're not wrong. I think just based on the market, the way it is, with the way people are spending their money, I don't think that there's a reason to buy the Pro. And I said this on the socials. I'll say it again live on the air, folks. The whole point of Sony selling it earlier was to sell out their first run stock on it. And they didn't. It came out. What sold out wasn't the PlayStation 5 Pro. It was the PlayStation 5 Pro 30th anniversary, which is selling for $4,000 right now on eBay. It was dominated by the scalpers. Okay, now did some
great looking console, by the way? Just gonna put that out there.
Yeah. I mean, did some actual gamers get their hands on it? Sure, I bet that they did. I know a couple of them because I talk with them in the DMs. But for the most part, it was scalped up by, well, no pun intended, the scalpers. And the PlayStation 5 Pro is still available. So the question is, if it's still available now, and Sony launched the early pre-order to sell out their initial stock, how many people do you think are going to go to Walmart and Best Buy and GameStop and Target when it comes out on the 10th of October? Not a lot of people. I think I originally said that you were going to get between 6 and 7% of the populace to upgrade. I don't even know, based on the numbers, if that in fact is the case anymore. It may even be less than that.
They'll push holiday numbers. They'll push consoles out
for the holidays, sure.
But there'll be plenty available. Like, there'll be a huge supply.
It's still a tough nut to swallow. Pause. That you put a console out for $699.99. Their pack-in is a game that was a pack-in back in 2020. Not even the new Astrobot. It's the old one, and the old one is fan-freaking-tastic. I did platinum that, and it's really well done. But the question is, it's not the new one. And they could have. And again, I did hear that they did pull it out of the box to put the old one in to sell you the new one. And like I said, I'm not sorry that I bought it. I'm sure a lot of people that have played it are not sorry that they bought it either, because it's quite a great game. But let me just catch up on super chats, and then we'll get to outros, because we are closing in on the 90-minute mark, ladies and gentlemen. And obviously we have shrunk the shows because, well, the 90 minutes do work for me personally, as well as being there has been a whole mess of news. Now, the Phil Spencer visited Koei Tecmo. We're going to get into tomorrow. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, myself, Everborn, Hargeet Chan, who's in the chat, by the way, and Kay Asante are going to talk about that and a few other pretty big potential topics. That being maybe an acquisition at some point, because thanks to Hazardor Gaming, as he does on a regular basis, he put out a tweet right after his initial tweet talking about Phil making an appearance at the studio. He says, for all your conspiracy theorists out there, Phil Spencer was playing Ninja Gaiden after his visit to Koei Tecmo. So, I mean, he knows what Ninja Gaiden is. It launched as an exclusive originally on the OG Xbox. That is a phenomenal game. I'd love to see a Resident Evil 2 remake of that, because the series kind of didn't do so good after 2. Ninja Gaiden 3 was not that great, and the one after that is incredibly forgettable because it was about zombies, and, well, that's definitely not good. But let me catch up on Super Chats, and then we'll get everyone out of here. We have here Gamer by Choice has been a channel member, man, for as long as the channel has been around. 60 months, ladies and gentlemen. Gamer by Choice, thank you so much for the continued support. That is unfreaking believable. He goes on to say, people are not championing Starfield because we have gamers more worried about platform warfare than enjoying the game or enjoying gaming. The game has issues, but it is overall such a fun game. Too bad people hate on it. Yeah, I mean, listen, every game has issues. It's a massive undertaking, that game. It's just so it's one of the biggest games that they have put out. It's one of the best-selling games that they have put out. They've done some incredible work. Todd Howard and the team should be 100% proud of what they did. And we got a new expansion that is massive. We have JJ saying 117 drops a very generous $2 super chat and goes on to say, I started to play Metaphor demo and it is amazing. Yes, I downloaded it. I am not a Persona guy, but Metaphor looks absolutely incredible. I definitely got to play that. But Starfield has definitely stolen my time. We have Jay Fuller drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, hey, Boom and panel, I'm waiting for the Digital Foundry PS5 Pro versus Series X comparisons. I'm that's going to be happening soon. I'm actually surprised they don't have one already, to be honest with you, but they will have one soon enough. And I would imagine that games that are going to be coming out that are dual releases, they're going to be doing what Digital Foundry does best. And hopefully it's the truth. Hopefully they get down to the nitty gritty and really break down which console is better. Is it worth the money? Well, time is going to tell. But listen, let's get everyone out of here. We'll start first with our special guest who did an absolutely amazing job. Coffee, brother, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you did feel welcomed here. The chat was agreeing with you quite a bit with your points. We have already added your socials to, of course, the show notes. So if you want to follow him on Twitter, you can do it there. His YouTube channel, which I do have now, is also going to be there. But I did drop his Twitter account in the chat. I'll drop it again in a second. Coffee, by all means, sell your brand. Where can people follow you on social media? And let's talk about your YouTube channel that you are going to be launching.
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is pretty sparse right now. I just launched it. Well, I launched it a while ago, but never really used it. I'm going to start using it again, and I'm going to launch my podcast next week. So I hope to have guests on board like you, Boom, and others to talk about games. It'll be like a once a week podcast. As far as my Twitter is concerned, it's just I Love Coffee 83. That's where you can find me, at I Love Coffee 83. And yeah, I mean, thanks for having me on here. Sorry I got into a bit of a rant here. Just like I've been meaning to express my thoughts on this whole gaming atmosphere at the moment in time. And yeah, I hope to be on some more episodes like this one. And thank you all for having me.
Well, it's great to have you, brother. You did knock it out of the park, and we do appreciate the opinions. They were honest. They were earnest. They were thought-provoking, and that's what we like doing. We like having gaming conversations. Sure, we can be pointed. Sure, we may like one brand or another, but the one thing that we will never do, and guests and panel members will never go out of their way to do, is to hate monger. I don't like that kind of rhetoric. I do not like that content at all. I know that it exists, and you know what? For other people, it works. For here, we do not swim in those waters. And you know what? That's why you enjoy this, the channel the way it is, and we're never going to change. We're always going to be fun and engaging and welcoming and transparent, and that is what we enjoy doing. Jamie Moran, let's sell your brand, but we also want to talk about that 40-hour. The 40-plus hour video that you put out. Now, it's not 40 hours in length. It took him about 40 hours, which is why I want to get more eyes on it. It's very well done. It is about the top 20 games releasing on Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One X. In the month of October, he put a lot of work into it. It's very well done. You can go check it out. And obviously, you do have a podcast with Logan Meyer happening later on this afternoon. We want to hear about that. Where can people subscribe to your YouTube channel? But more importantly, follow you on social media.
Yeah, thanks, Boom. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys. So yeah, my YouTube channel is The Elusive Gamer, where I exclusively cover Xbox. I put out a video last night of the top 20 biggest games coming to Xbox for October. It took about 40 hours to fully make, but it's out. Hope people enjoy it. I also have All Things Xbox podcast, which is tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time, where we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy, some StarCraft, and a bunch of Xbox League stuff. It's going to be an exciting show. And also my Twitter is Jamie Moran UK, where it's exclusively gaming and jokes.
And that's what it's all about. Having fun. Hashtag fun, ladies and gentlemen. Hashtag fun. We also have another super chat popped up in here. Hargi Chani, generous friend of the program and panel member on the Wednesday show known as Primetime Gaming. He goes on to say, should we call the PlayStation media bias toxic positivity? I mean, if I'm sure that's a way that they're gonna try and spin it. So yeah, I guess, but you know, again, it is what it is. Hargi, thank you so much for the jokes as always. Thank you for the generosity, as you know, as you normally do. We definitely appreciate it here. Infinite Umbra, let's sell the brand of the fix. Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all the way from Chi-Town. Obviously, you and Danny McGee do a great job. You talk about video games, of course, but it is an open platform for film discussion. And I think that there is a film that released digitally today that is going to be making the rounds. That is Deadpool and Wolverine is available on digital. I don't know exactly when or if it launched, at the same time with Disney Plus. If it didn't, I will be buying it because Mrs. Boom and I definitely want to see it. I saw it twice. I want to see it again. Mrs. Boom has not seen it as of yet because she doesn't have time off during the week to go to the movies, and we were watching that, and that film was amazing. And of course, they also talk about wrestling, which seems to be a big piece of conversation. There was that Vince McMahon Netflix behind the scenes thing. Pretty interesting stuff. Talk about it, brother. Sell the brand. Where can people subscribe to your YouTube channel and follow you on social media?
Life is a mystery. Made me think of Deadpool. That was a good movie. Anyway, yeah, man. Boom. As always, thanks for having me, brother. And Jamie and Coffee. Nice to meet you, Coffee. Great takes. Absolutely. And it's interesting that what I needed most was coffee, as tired as I am, and you came through in the clutch. So
Thanks.
it worked out. Yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you all for being here, holding us down as you always do as well. I mean, you definitely, when I am much more energized, power me to give better opinions than today. So I do apologize that my energy is low today, unfortunately, but always a pleasure to be here with you guys. As far as where to find me, of course, Twitter, Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite, you'll find me either way. And as Boom alluded to, Thursdays at 8 o'clock Eastern, The Fix with myself and Daniel J. McGee. We do talk about everything. So it's not just gaming, it's movies, it's TV shows, it's wrestling, or wrestling, as I like to say. We talk about it all. So definitely tune in to us this Thursday if you all could, and every Thursday, and subscribe to our channel. Fridays is the Infinite Podcast with myself, Risky for the Biscuit, that Blue Number, and Dante Spriggan, and occasionally Garuda Intruder when he can make it. We were speaking of metaphor. I heard that was mentioned. I did a preview write-up for it that is going to be featured on Kay Asante and
Very nice, sir.
Yeah, I like that. I think I did pretty solid work on it too. It took some time to make sure I got my thoughts pretty organized.
What'd you think?
I liked it a lot. I am not much like you. I've never been the biggest Persona fan. I actually never played any Persona games before, none. So I was fresh into Atlus's stratosphere here when it comes to this. Now I know it's not specifically the same team that made Persona. This is made by Studio Zero. However, they do have veterans of Persona in it. That the director and the art, art concept artist, all these other people, a lot of talent in there are the people responsible from Persona 3 through 5. And so all of that DNA is there. And so I do get to see why a lot of the fan base, why like the franchise is so beloved as it is, because you could see it in this game here. And I feel like this might be kind of like their magnum opus in a way, in a lot of ways, high medieval fantasy setting, beautiful art style that's never going to get tired. You know what I mean? And a very interesting kind of fusion of their combat system. Is turn-based, but it's also live real time where you can attack before you go into that. You got options. I'll put it to you like that. I break it down in there. I give it, and that should be posted. If not in a few hours, it should be. I would say in a few hours, it should be posted live on, and I'll share it and post it on my timeline. So you all be on the lookout for that to give it a read if you could. And
nice, and
definitely be excited for Metaphor, because I think it's possible. And I had this discussion with Pong on PTK Blam's podcast this past Saturday. I think it might just be possible that it might enter into that game of the year contention.
Looks phenomenal. Like it again. That's what grabbed me. The way the presentation got me very excited. It looks fantastic. I downloaded the demo. I'll let you know what I think. But listen, we're looking forward to it. And you do fantastic reviews, folks. If you don't follow him already on Twitter, you're doing it wrong. He also does a lot of write-ups for Kay Asante's The Gaming Circle podcast. Well, it's actually thegamingcircle.com. It is his website. You should definitely check it out. Where does consistent opinion pieces and reviews, and he plays with these games, folks. So really good work around. Real quick, Thanaros, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $10 super chat, and he says, "I got nothing to say, just dropping support, brother." That is very kind of you. Thank you so much for the generosity, and of course, always being here. But that's going to do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you enjoyed the program enough to hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, Mrs. Boom and I would greatly appreciate the sub. We are a few clicks away. I use that as a pun from getting. We're at 15.2. We're nearly there, and obviously the goal is to now move on to 16K. Hopefully you folks, or you fine folks, I should say, could get us there. And we're just trying to grow the channel organically, and I'm being facetious. We are doing it the right way. We're not clickbaiting you in here. We're not hate mongering you into the show. We have fun. Everything is well researched. Everyone gets their show notes. They go with articles. When we read articles, we give credit where credit is due. And again, this is what the show is. But thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, a big thank you to all of the super chats that continue to power the show, that allow us to do the big giveaways. And we just did one last Friday. We gave away $500 worth of gift cards, 10 winners, $50 gift cards apiece, 2 of which were international viewers. And of course, as promised, they did in fact get their prizes. And we have another one coming out. Actually, the next 2 big ones are in November. November 1st is a Friday. That is Mrs. Boom's birthday. So we're celebrating the 6th annual Mrs. Boom's birthday bash. And once again, we are giving away $500 worth of gift cards. But then later on that month, a big game is coming out. That is Stalker 2. And we have pledged all the way since last year that Mrs. Boom and I are donating 15 copies to people of this community. We are buying those at full price. We are a mom and pop place helping a small developer. We are actually helping support the devs. As you know, we see people use it rhetoric, but don't actually do it. We're giving away 15 copies on the 20th when that game releases. It is going to be in Game Pass. We are not giving away the deluxe edition, FYI, because that is $80, and you know we're self-funded, so we are giving away the standard edition of that game. I believe there is an upgrade path. Once you get the game, you can buy the upgraded, status quo, if you will. But we're giving away 15 copies. The first 8 copies will go to people that are channel members. The next 7 will be anybody in the live chat when we are podcasting, and we let the picker here from StreamYards do its work, and it does it to great degree. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.